This video is brought to you by me. For $1 a month, you can support the channel directly and help me keep doing what I love. Thanks for watching and supporting. There's always been something fascinating about Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask ever since I arrived at my friend's house as a young 6-year-old. We all had that friend as a kid who got every new game the moment they came out, and luckily for me, I always got to go over and see the newest releases. Majora's Mask was one of these shiny new games, but since we were going to hang out together, he'd always switch to a multiplayer game so we could both play at once. When I walked into his house and saw this menu screen filled with cold, always staring masks, which led to the main character contorting, screaming, and transforming after putting them on, I was pretty scared, but also really interested. What is this? Zelda, he responded before turning the console off and swapping the golden cartridge out for Diddy Kong Racing or something of the ilk. Yeah, my first brush with the Legend of Zelda series came in passing like this. So when my birthday came around and my family asked what I wanted, I had no idea what to say besides Zelda, not knowing that it was a series or that Ocarina of Time existed on the N64 too. Luckily, when my birthday came around, my grandma guessed correctly and actually got Majora's Mask for me. I didn't play this game nearly as much as I wanted to. In the year 2000, I was still trying to figure out how to read, and in a game like Zelda, reading is a crucial skill. Try as I might, I don't think I ever finished the first dungeon. Instead, I walked around the eerie world of Termina, confused and weirded out by the freaky dancers in West Clocktown, the Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask, and of course the anything but happy masked salesman. As I grew up and tried to chip away at the game, I'd start over and get a little bit further every time I played until now when I decided to bury this regret for never finishing it. So let's turn back the clock and start over where Link did, at the dawn of the first day. Majora's Mask was a direct sequel to the genre-defining Ocarina of Time and was developed over the course of 1 year. It presented the small development team working on it with interesting questions about how it would follow such a historically important game. The story picks up after Link leaves Hyrule in search for his fairy, Navi. While riding his horse Epona in the woods, Link is ambushed by a mysterious boy called Skull Kid and his two fairies, Tattle and Tail. After stealing the Ocarina of Time from Link's possession and making off with Epona, Link chases him and falls into a deep pit. This is where Link dies, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Sure, Nintendo says that isn't true, but there is plenty of convincing evidence to suggest that our hero is making his way into the afterlife. When Link lands at the bottom of the pit, Skull Kid casts a curse on him, turning him into a lowly Deku scrub. While distracting Link and trying to prevent him from following Skull Kid, Tattle gets separated from her brother and the villain. This turns into her relying on Link to reunite her with the other two, and Tattle becomes your companion for the rest of the game, similarly to how Navi was your companion all through Ocarina of Time. Before Link can exit the cavern he has found himself in, he emerges into a room full of mechanical components and gears. He is greeted by a disturbing figure wearing a veneer of a smile who asks the iconic line, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" This is the happy mask salesman, a face familiar to those who played Ocarina of Time where he sold masks at the bazaar. He explains to Link that something incredibly important and dangerous has been stolen from him, Majora's Mask. This mask was used for rituals by an ancient tribe of people, but after losing control of the evil power contained in it, they had to seal it away to prevent catastrophe. This accessory of destruction has now found its way into the hands of the Skull Kid, and if it is not retrieved, there is no telling what kind of atrocities will happen. In exchange for receiving the mask, the happy mask salesman will return Link to his normal Hylian form. From there, Link leaves the room and emerges from what turned out to be the basement of a clock tower in the center of Clocktown, a city at the center of Termina, a world parallel to Hyrule. Termina and Clocktown are populated with many people who appeared in Ocarina of Time, but who are all written to be different characters, creating this uncanny valley of sorts where if you look long enough, everything feels a little off and wrong. This is an early sign that our hero might not be amongst the living. This new place is filled with people we recognize, but none are who they appear to be. The new world of Termina is broken up into 4 major sections: Ikana Canyon, the Great Bay, the Southern Swamp, and Snowhead. Each of these regions are guarded by the spirit of a unique giant who could be called for if the people of Termina were ever in danger. With these giants comes the origin story of the Skull Kid. Before the giants migrated to their resting spots in the region, they befriended the Skull Kid. But after they left, the Skull Kid was frustrated, angry, and most importantly, alone. He took that anger and isolation and started using it against the people of Termina. The giants were called upon, and their former friend was driven away from Termina, leading him to be more alone than ever before. This is when he meets Tattle and Tail, and the 3 become friends. Once the trio stumbles upon the happy mask salesman, the Skull Kid's inclination for mischief leads him to steal Majora's mask, making him an easy vessel for the ultimate evil contained within it. Much like the clock tower is central to Clock Town, time itself is a central theme to Majora's mask. After gaining acceptance from the local child gang, the Bombers, Link as a Deku Scrub gains access to Termina's observatory where a powerful telescope lies. From the telescope, Link can see the Skull Kid taunting him from the roof of the clock tower, and more importantly, the moon looming above Termina appears to be falling ever so slowly. The Skull Kid's antics have turned from harmless pranks into fully fledged evil. Skull Kid is dropping the moon onto Termina. When it hits, it will cause mass devastation and leave everyone dead. In order to save Termina from the pending apocalypse, Link must wait until 3 days from now until the clock tower opens, signaling the beginning of the Carnival of Time when he can face off against the Skull Kid. When Link arrives to face the villain, Tail, the fairy that has been traveling with Skull Kid since being separated from Tattle, warns of the impending doom and tells Link he must gather the 4 giants once again and get their help to stop the moon. After stunning Skull Kid with a toxic bubble, he drops the Ocarina of Time, and Link is able to play the Song of Time, allowing him to return to the dawn of the first day he arrived in Termina. When he arrives back at day 1, he sees the happy mask salesman, seemingly unfazed by the backtick of time. The salesman assumes Link has retrieved Majora's mask and teaches Link the Song of Healing that restores Link's original form. After Link is healed, the mask of the scrub lies in front of him. The happy mask salesman explains that if he ever wanted to use the scrub's abilities, all he had to do is put on the mask and he will be transformed back into it. Things get rather awkward after the salesman learns that Link didn't actually get Majora's mask back from the Skull Kid. However, being the hero he is, Link vows to save Termina and assemble the giants before the moon crashes down. Initially, I wasn't going to talk too heavily about the gameplay because it's a Zelda game. If you played one, you played them all. But I think this is a good opportunity to confess something about myself. There is a lot I don't like about traditional 3D Zelda games. I'll eventually talk about Ocarina of Time because I'm a gaming YouTuber, it's in the contract, but as I have alluded to in the past, I hate Ocarina of Time for a variety of reasons. I finished it a few months before I started this channel, and I found it to be a miserable time. And the worst part was, I was really excited for it. In some ways it comes down to personal preference, and in other ways I believe it does a lot of things badly, in boring ways. But most importantly, it sets up the series for a lot of lather, rinse, repeat tropes that made later games feel really formulaic and linear. How many glowing eyes do I have to hit before this boss dies? Or how long do I have to wait for this Skulltula to turn around before I can kill it for the 100th time? I have always had more fun with top-down variants of the games like Link Between Worlds because of the freedom and encouraged exploration. Every time I sit down to play a 3D Zelda game, I have to acknowledge the fact that there is a lot of the game that I'm not going to like, and I have to get over that to give the rest of the game a chance. So instead of focusing on what I don't like about the gameplay, I'll save that for the Ocarina of Time video, I want to talk about what works really well in Majora's Mask. Let's talk about the major hook of this game, the masks themselves. While there are the same old weapons and items you get in most other Zelda games, the concept of masks opens up Link's abilities and creates interesting puzzles and temples. My favorite temple was probably the Snowhead Temple because you use the Goron mask to ramp over gaps and overcome obstacles by punching the heck out of them. I also found the boss fight really creative, and the main hook of rolling after it and ramming into it was only possible because the Goron mask gave Link powers he wouldn't normally have. The masks really expanded the scope of the gameplay in a way I found refreshing and fun. Like, you know what isn't fun in Zelda games? Swimming. So they gave you the Zora mask and all of a sudden, slicing through water became a breeze, And the water temple became interesting and unhindered by navigation. And one thing I found incredibly improved in Majora's Mask was the variety of enemies, and specifically how fun they were to fight. Naturally, there were a fair bit of keys that are always just out of reach of your sword, and enemies you have to just aim at long enough and wait for an opening to hit. But I found that the bosses, mid-bosses, and the final boss of the game were excellent. Probably some of the most fun I've had with a Zelda game, full stop. They actually felt like battles. They all involved dodging and strategizing how to get close enough to damage them, and I appreciated that in this game where a sword is the main weapon, getting up close and personal with enemies means you have to be smart and accurate. There is also a lot of optional side content you can find just by observing and exploring Termina and talking to people at different times. All of the townsfolk schedules are tracked in the bomber notebook you receive at the beginning of the game. It helps to keep track of the people you meet, what their goals are, and what jobs they expect you to complete. I wasn't expecting to save the Romani wagon from raiders, or bet rupees on dogs racing around a track. Ignoring all of this doesn't push you farther from the credits, but rather you might find some interesting upgrades and worthwhile items if you do seek out all there is to do. You don't have to race around the Goron track, but if you win, you get gold dust that allows the blacksmith and Snowhead to upgrade your sword with longer range and more damage. But now it's time to switch gears to probably the most polarizing aspect of Majora's Mask, the 3-day time system. With the Ocarina of Time by his side, Link has unlimited time to save the world. He can skip ahead in time, make time pass more slowly, or return to the dawn of the first day whenever he wishes. The trade-off to returning to day 1 is losing all bombs, rupees, and arrows that he is holding. It's a small price to pay for the ability to exist outside the constraints of time, in my opinion. For many players, the time mechanic of Majora's Mask is a sticking point, but I think it added a necessary element to the journey: urgency. Every time Link resets the clock, he resets the state of Termina as well. For instance, Goron Village is experiencing a particularly nasty winter, rendering everything frozen and uninhabitable, leading to the Gorons potentially facing an early extinction. The winter is caused by Majora's powers taking control of the giant who guards the area, and defeating it in battle warms the village into spring. When you reset the clock, the snow returns and you must defeat the spirit again to get spring back. Every character in Termina is on a rigid schedule that they follow from day 1 to day 3. No matter how many times you reset, you will find them in the same place on day 1. So what happens is, if you need to wait for a specific time-sensitive event and you miss it because you were doing something else, the only way to try again is to return to day 1 and wait until it happens again. Some people cite the time mechanic as a reason Majora's Mask is a bad game, but it forced me to get better about managing my time and efficiently completing tasks. It also created tension when tackling dungeons. I would always reset to day 1 before going into a temple to give myself as much time as possible. However, as I continued to Deku scrub it up, I'd get antsy as time ticked on and on. Not once did I lose my dungeon progress by running out of time, but it can happen. In an equally true way, Majora's Mask presents the speed of time as an illusion, bringing me to my next point about why I truly think Link is dead. While in Ocarina of Time, Link did travel back and forth in time over the course of years at a time by visiting the Temple of Time. How many times have I said time? According to the Zelda wiki, the game only appears to time travel. Rather, Link is actually sealed into a time warp and he experiences the passage of time in real time, which explains why he grows up between eras. In Majora's Mask, Link directly manipulates time by using his ocarina. Thus, Link has all the time in the world, and the moon will only ever fall if he allows it to. Skull Kid sets this loop into motion, but Link decides how it ends. Skull Kid isn't even disconnected from time like Link in the Happy Mask Salesman, as proven by the fact that no matter how many times you face him on the roof of the clock tower, it always plays out the same. Link is a hero though, meaning cataclysmic catastrophe isn't an option. Link has to grow and complete his quest to free himself of this loop. The moon will never fall. It's very Groundhog Day. In order for Bill Murray's character to free himself over the never-ending February 2nd, he needs to become the best version of himself.
I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god.
Like I mentioned earlier, the bombs and arrows are reset when returning to the first day, but the songs Link learns and the masks he collects remain with him. These are tangible tools that help him get closer to his goal. The masks also present evidence that Link is, in fact, dead. There are many different masks in the game, but the ones I find most interesting are the transformative masks that give Link abilities. What I find most fascinating about these masks is how they are acquired. The three major masks of the game are the Goron mask, the Zora mask, and the Deku Scrub mask, which we already looked at. The Goron mask and the Zora mask are both acquired in a similar way. Darmani was a great Goron warrior, but after he dies, his restless spirit roams the land until he encounters Link. Link helps usher Darmani into the afterlife using the Song of Healing, the same song that helped free Link of his Deku mask. After Darmani's spirit is at peace, a mask is left where his soul once stood. Similarly, when Link arrives in the Great Bay, he attempts to save a Zora that is dying. Unfortunately, not much can be done, and the Zora passes away, once again leaving his essence in a mask where his body was. Upon wearing these masks, Link is recognized as the respective people who bore their faces. Link is an ambassador to people into the afterlife, and in return he absorbs their abilities of the people he transitioned and takes on their likenesses. And while we aren't directly shown the source of the Deku mask, we are given some clues. The butler in the Deku Kingdom makes you race him to the end of a labyrinth to claim your reward for saving the princess, and he confesses it reminds him of the days that he and his son would race through caverns. This hauntingly makes you wonder if the Deku corpse you see earlier in the game might be that son, and crossing the Skull Kid led him to an early grave above ground. To me, what really sealed the idea that Link was dead was the ability that comes with the Elegy of Emptiness that Link learns before the final temple. The song summons a dead-eyed statue of the form Link is currently in. So if Link is wearing the Goron mask, a heavy statue of Link's Goron form will appear. In its raw form, this is a mechanic used for solving pressure plate puzzles, but these statues are described as shells of Link. There are 4 possible forms, one for Link's normal Hylian self, and one for each of the transformative masks. Besides Link's normal form, each of the other shells are of a deceased character. And if you've supported the theory that Link is dead thus far, you can imagine that because the Elegy of Emptiness creates a shell of Link himself, you can make the connection that he is also dead. Majora's Mask gives off some truly grim vibes. It's a really moody, dark game. The inhabitants of Clocktown and Termina are all trying to process the impending apocalypse. A lot of people are afraid. Others refuse to believe it's happening at all. Others are simply continuing to live their lives. These contrasts show how everyone processes grief differently. Death and loss are the core of Majora's Mask. They created an unsettling atmosphere that really affected me. I feel that giving Link the power to control time means he can take as much time as he needs to process his own demise. The mask feels like it represents the concept of death itself, the horrible power contained in it representing the grip of fear that death holds on us. And since even the Skull Kid is caught up in the time loop, it feels like Link can wait until he's ready to face it to get it over with. And when Link finally does face and conquer the mask, he purges it of what made it scary in the first place, ridding it of the power that resided in it. Look, there's a lot of imagery and subtext in this game that alludes to grief and loss, even more so than I talked about here. I wrote this before even looking at evidence online. These were just the things that stuck out to me. Even if Link isn't dead himself, he's surrounded by death the whole game. It wouldn't change the fact this game is about grief and loss. Whether they accept it or not, the Termina people are all acutely aware of what is happening with the moon. Link is the only one who can save them, and naturally because he's the hero of Hyrule, he picks up the mantle and sets forth to save the world again. But the people of Termina don't know they're in good hands. They don't know him from any of the other kids walking around Clocktown. For all they know, everything they own, everything they've worked for, and everything they love and cherish will disappear in 72 hours. It's a pretty heavy concept to put into the Zelda series, and I think we can all agree on that, whether you think Link is dead or alive. So what do you think? Is Link dead in Majora's Mask? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked the video, consider hitting subscribe and the bell to make sure you never miss another upload. If you want to support the channel directly, head over to my Patreon link in the description. For $1 a month, you get early access to all my videos and some extra stuff you can't get anywhere else. I'd like to take a moment and thank my higher tier patrons, Okayla, Just Jessica, 8-Bit Jesus, Andrew Elmore, and Andrew Lang. I'll see you in the next one. I think Link is dead, but that's just a theory. A game theory.